We always try to trick my dad. That was like the best part of the tradition. Hello, welcome back to my channel. Happy day 18 of Vlogmas as we continue our top 10 Tuesdays. So far, I have gone through my top 10 favorite Christmas songs and my top 10 favorite Christmas movies. Today, we are going to talk about my top 10 favorite Christmas traditions, like my personal family traditions. And I'm not going to do them in order of like the best ones, because I mean, all traditions are great. They're all great in their own way. They're all different. I'm going to do them in order of my oldest memory. So it's not even necessarily the order in which they were introduced to me, because I just might remember one older than the other, but we may have been doing them both. Or maybe one of the ones I list later actually started earlier. This is the order that I remember them becoming a part of my life and where I have vivid memories of this being a Christmas tradition. So I'm gonna preface this by saying my parents have been divorced since I was an infant, so I have no Christmas memories or traditions being together with both of my parents. So all of these are going to be with one side of the family or the other. So my oldest Christmas tradition memory is with my dad and my dad's old house, the very first house. Well, it was the first house we lived in, but the first, because we lived in an apartment. It was the first actual house that we lived in. And the Christmas tree was in the front living room, and usually at that age I was always getting something like big for Christmas, that not big like expensive, but big like you can wrap it, like a bike or a dollhouse or a keyboard or something like that, where it was just like already made and unwrapped and just had a big bow on it. And so I wasn't allowed to look at the Christmas tree until my grandparents got there. So every Christmas morning I would go to my dad's room and we'd stay in there and we would sit in bed, and that's when we would open our stockings. We would get up, we would call my grandparents, tell them that I was awake and it was time to come over. They were already awake because grandparents. And I would open my stocking in bed with my dad until my grandparents got there. And then I got to go to the living room and see whatever the big unwrapped toy was that Santa brought me that year. So the next one is sort of what happened after that. So after my grandparents got there and we opened up all the presents and we sort of hung out, we would have Christmas breakfast. And my dad would always make Eggs Benedict. And it was the only time ever my dad made Eggs Benedict. And he makes great Eggs Benedict. Like, it's delicious, but he says it's too difficult and poaching eggs and blah, blah, blah. So he only makes it on Christmas morning. And I actually haven't spent Christmas with my dad in a long time. And so I just really miss his Eggs Benedict, but that's definitely one of my earliest Christmas memories. Okay, number 3 is my mom's side of the family, and my mom and actually my first stepdad. So this tradition is probably common, you've heard of it before, but a lot of places, churches, schools, and even like neighborhoods or complexes will do where you can adopt a family. Even we do it at work, and you get that particular family gifts for Christmas. And I just remember every single year our church would have a tree in the lobby with Adopt a Family, and so each little ornament was a different kid and it would have what they wanted for Christmas on it. And I just remember every year my mom and stepdad letting me pick out the kids that we were going to buy gifts for that year, and then going and shopping for them and wrapping them. And gift giving is my love language. I love giving gifts and I love spoiling people. And so I think that's one of the reasons I've always loved that, but it's just one of my most treasured like holiday memories. And to this day, now I participate in the one at work, and I always donate cash to the families that we're adopting, but I also always donate my time and do some of the shopping for the families at work as well. All right, number 4 is sort of with my mom's side of the family, but it's my godmother in particular. And it was that every Christmas I would spend a whole day with my godmother, Frances, and we would bake all of the things. We would bake all kinds of Christmas cookies. We would listen to Christmas music and watch Christmas movies, and it was just the best day ever. And her name was Frances, and her name is Frances. I still have her in my life, but I would call her Francie Claus when I was a little kid around the holidays, because she was just so generous and so thoughtful. And she was my godmother, but her and my godfather basically became grandparents to me and my brother and sister because my mom's parents passed away very young. I just remember being in her kitchen wearing this like Christmas apron, which it's probably ingrained in me because I've seen a lot of pictures of it, but it's this cute little like red and green Christmas apron, and I would stand up on like a step stool of some sort so that I could be at line with the counter, and I would just bake with Frances, and it was so much fun. Okay, the next one is back to my dad's, and this is with my dad and my stepmom, my grandparents, and every Christmas Eve we would get to open one present. And most of the time I didn't get to pick the present. Sometimes they would let me, like I would try to pick the present and then they would either veto it and say, no, you can't open that one till tomorrow. But I would always get to open one present on Christmas Eve. It's a silly tradition, but it was just fun. It sort of kicked off Christmas on Christmas Eve. And it made that one gift special because everybody was like focusing on you and that one gift because it was the first gift. All right, that same night that we got to open one gift at my dad's house, we also had gyozas on Christmas Eve every year. What is a gyoza, you ask? It is a Japanese pan-fried dumpling. They're called dumplings, and you can get them. They come in all sorts of Asian cuisine, but gyozas in particular are Japanese. And the reason that we had those was my family actually spent a number of years in Japan when my grandfather was stationed there. So my dad lived in Japan for a number of years when he was little, and they picked up on some of these Japanese traditions that they got from their friends that they made while they lived there. And in addition to making cranes, which we also did every Christmas, not 1,000. Actually, one year we did make 1,000, and I can't remember why. Like what instigated my grandmother wanting to make 1,000 that year. Okay, tangent. But we always had gyozas, and my grandmother would make them from scratch because she is that amazing, and they were always delicious. But kind of like the Eggs Benedict, we only got them on Christmas Eve. So since I also haven't spent Christmas Eve with my dad in quite a long time, I miss gyozas. Okay, number 7 is back with my mom, and this is becoming a little bit more recent. This happened once we moved to Chicago from Texas. We were always so impressed at the lights in Chicago. Not to say that Texas didn't do a good job decorating their houses for Christmas, because I'm sure they did, but for whatever reason, our neighborhood in Chicago seemed to do a lot better of a job. So every year we would all like put pajamas on, we would get hot chocolate and mugs, and we would drive around and we would go look at all the Christmas lights. And even though there were some houses that did the same thing every year, it was so fun to like go around as a family and look at all the lights. And then they started doing those crazy things where the lights go with the music, and you like turn your car to a specific radio station and the lights matched up with the music. Like, who came up with that? Lights these days are crazy, and that's not recent. And then I remember the year that they did like the sparkly lights on the side of the house. That was like a new thing. It was just always fun to see what was new this year and what was the same. And it's actually something that we still do. Although now that my parents have moved to the city from the suburbs, I'm not really sure what the light situation is in terms of like house lights. I mean, there's lots of lights and decorations downtown Chicago, but not like, I'm not gonna go look at decorated houses. Maybe we are. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Okay, the next one is back with my dad and my grandparents, and this was also with my aunt and uncle. It was a huge tradition with them, and it is called a pinching gift. So what it is, you take something small and you try to make it something that has like sort of a unique shape or is something totally unique that you've never seen before, you've never given as a gift, and you wrap it in a bunch of tissue paper. Just like keep wrapping it in tissue paper until you have this like big ball. And then you give it to the person, and it's sort of a game, and they have to just literally pinch the tissue paper and try and figure out what the gift is. And they try to make guesses, and they can ask yes or no questions, kind of like 20 questions, and then you can play it different ways, but then sometimes you peel a layer or two off and still try and figure it out. And obviously the quicker that you ask, like, that you win. I don't know what you really win. I guess you win the present that's inside, but you were gonna get it anyway. But it was always just one of those fun things. We would be out shopping, and me and my grandmother would be like, oh, this is a perfect pinching gift. We always try to trick my dad. That was like the best part of the tradition, was what's the craziest gift we can get my dad this year so that he won't ever guess it and he'll give up and just try and open it. One year we really got him with one of those toothpaste squeezy things, like you stick it on your toothpaste to try and squeeze out all the toothpaste, just random stuff like that. Okay, the next one is a little bit more recent, and this came to be when my mom got married to my current stepdad, and he and his ex-wife have partial custody of my stepbrothers, and they have a very strict parenting schedule that they abide by. So we either have my siblings for like 24 hours from noon on Christmas Eve to noon on Christmas Day, or we have them like all around that and we lose them for 24 hours from noon on Christmas Eve to noon on Christmas Day. To be honest, I like it both ways. It's hard to decide which one I like better. That's not true. I prefer actually losing them for those 24 hours and then getting them back at noon on Christmas Day. So when it's the other way around, and I can't remember what it is this year, but when we get them for those 24 hours, then we do the typical Christmas thing, right? We get them at noon, and then we go to church, we come home, we have a big meal, and then we watch a Christmas movie, and then we go to bed early because we get up super early, we open a bunch of gifts. My mom makes these very traditional, okay, they're not traditional Christmas dishes for breakfast, they are my mom's traditional. She makes them every Christmas morning for breakfast. And then we lose them at noon. And it's sort of a jam-packed 24 hours, but it's sort of the more classic Christmas. And then the tradition that we started when we have that situation is on Christmas night, like Christmas Day night, we will usually go see an adult movie. Now, okay, I say adult movie, it doesn't mean like it's an adult movies. One year we saw Into the Woods, but we'll go as the adults and go see a movie and go to like one of those nice theaters with the nice comfy seats and like a drink. But that was like our Christmas day night tradition when we don't have the kids. The truth is though, I prefer it the other way around. Like losing them at noon on Christmas Eve sort of stinks because then we go to church without the kids and it's just us. But then we get to sleep in on Christmas morning, even though sometimes that's a little bit difficult, but sometimes even if I'm not sleeping in, I like just sort of waking up and like drinking my coffee and reading a book, and it's sort of relaxing. And my mom still makes the casserole she always makes, but then the kids don't come over till noon and the chaos doesn't start until noon. But then we have the whole evening to hang out together and just do sort of like family stuff. We play games, usually the games that we got for Christmas. Those are a lot of traditions wrapped up into one. Okay, and then the last one is also somewhat of a recent one, although we haven't done it as much recently, and I'll explain why, and that is a scavenger hunt. So for a while, there was this period of time where every Christmas, either somebody or the family, usually it was like somebody or a couple of people were getting like a big gift for Christmas. Either it was the newest game system, or somebody was getting a new phone, or somebody was getting a new TV because they were going to college, or whatever it was. Somebody was getting a big present. And so instead of just like having it under the tree, we would do some sort of scavenger hunt. And they would have to like run around the house and find the clues, and then they would get their present. And it was something that my mom and I did every year. And it was just so much fun for her and I to come up with all these different ideas and all these different clues. And some years it was just one kid, some years it involved all of them. It was just so much fun. And partially we don't do it anymore because nobody really gets big gifts anymore. I mean, most of my siblings are in college and they just want money. And this year, I mean, I don't know how much scavengering we'd be able to do in her 2-bedroom condo. So it is one of those traditions that sort of has fallen by the wayside, but it is still has a lot of great memories. And I love just sort of reminiscing with my mom on us trying to come up with these ideas every year. Okay, that is it. Those are all of the family traditions that my family does and that I love doing every holiday season. Let me know in the comments, what are your family traditions? What are some of the things that your family does every year? Whether they're super common, like driving to look at Christmas lights, or something totally unique. I want to hear about it. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, welcome. Please click that subscribe button. I upload new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and every day from December 1st until Christmas. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Vlogmas!